What's up, I'm Poir, and welcome to my review for Wuchang Fallen Feathers. With so many Soulslikes on the market, it's hard to stand out and carve an identity for yourself. So how does Wuchang separate itself from its competitors? Well, Jiggle physics.
Jiggle physics.
That's right, Coomers, we won! Woo! You play a female lead named Wuchang, who is on a quest to find her sister, but she is infected with the feathering, a disease that has plagued the land of Shu, that eventually turns humans into monstrosities. Before that, it also damages their memories, so the plot is simple. Recover your memories of what happened along the way to lead you back to your sister. The story in Wuchang doesn't reinvent the wheel, it's the classic Souls-like setup, cryptic lore, piece through NPC dialogue, and item descriptions. You'll run fetch quests for NPCs to gain rewards along your journey, and there are multiple endings, depending on certain choices you make. But where the game shines is the exploration aspect. The areas are massive and interconnected like Dark Souls or Sekiro, with multiple paths looping back to a central area. There's a lot of shortcuts and traps rewarding clever navigation. And this is all wrapped up in a grim and gory package, with infected villagers and mutated abominations ready to tear your big booty off. So areas are really varied and rather gorgeous thanks to the Unreal Engine 5, ranging from dark enchanted forests, to snowy mountains, to beautiful Chinese architecture, and of course, a poison cave we all love. So the game never got stale geographically in my 55-ish hours journey, offering plenty of content for its $50 price tag. My only gripes were the bonfires were a bit sparse, so dying meant a long trek back in some cases. You can teleport between bonfires, but I just think 1 or 2 more checkpoints per area would have been nice. In fact, you're gonna hate some areas because of the lack of bonfires. Also, there was almost too many pathways, where it got kind of confusing in some cases, so you might want to look up a walkthrough for this one. Now, combat mechanics wise is where Wuchang kind of departs a bit from the usual formula, in mostly good ways. First off, the resource for using powerful skills or casting spells is called Skyborn Might, which is gained by using certain attacks or perfect dodging enemies' attacks. It's a build up, spend it kind of system with the bigger, stronger moves costing more. The upside is you never run out, no blue drink needed, but the downside is you start from zero most encounters. This leads to the next major gameplay feature, the skill tree, which is more like Path of Exile, fusing your leveling up with skill acquisition in a web of 6 branches, 1 for each of the 5 weapon classes, which are longsword, a rapier-like one-handed sword, axe, spear, and dual swords, plus magic. Each node will give you stats, skills, weapon upgrades, or flask boosts, but you'll need items to enhance your flask or weapon upgrades. But most progression comes from spending Crimson Mercury, this game's souls. Overall, the customization is fantastic, enhancing normal moveset attacks, boosting status effects like poison or frost buildup, giving some magic spells auto dodge, or unlocking just unique skills, of which weapons can have up to 2. And because weapon upgrades are tied to the weapon type, this means all your, say, longswords will be +5 instead of having to upgrade each individually, which is sick. You can equip up to 2 weapons, and using Skyborn Might and switching via the left thumbstick will automatically switch and use a skill of that next weapon at the same time, so very engaging weapon swap system. Some weapons can block, some can deflect, aka parry, and some could do what's called clash, which is a hybrid of attacking while deflecting at the same time, which is the funnest mechanic in the game. Added magic on top, up to 40 spells of various elements, some fire elemental projectiles, some buff you, or some do giant AoEs, but you can equip up to 4 spells at a time for a nice variety. You can also buff your weapon with the tempering mechanic, which you unlock shortly into the game, that can enhance your weapon with elements or stat boost on top. And it's still an RPG, so you got the extra things like pendants to equip or runes to plug into your weapons for even more effects. Backstabs are like Bloodborne style. Landing a strong attack on an enemy's back gets you an instant critical, and if you pair that with Skyborn Might's passives to speed up charge attacks, you're going to be critting humanoids left and right. So overall, a super fun and fleshed out system once you get into it. And the best part is free infinite respec from the get-go. So if you want to try a different build or weapon or setup, just get all your points back and redistribute them how you like. Oh, and there's also transmog for armor, so you can wear the strongest armor while looking sexy. Well done. Kudos to the developer for doing a good job here. The only bad things I would say is the gameplay feels like you're kind of in slow motion. I don't know if it's floaty, but definitely very slow. It's not snappy like Dark Souls games are, but at the same time, this does mean the impact of attacks feel very meaty. Even the longsword's deflect is like a clang with pretty generous active frames, and the same with your dodge, the active frames are generous. Still, enemies and bosses have many delayed attacks, so if you get knocked down and try to roll, the enemy's attack will be perfectly timed to hit you again. And it feels like we have no invincibility frames when we are knocked down sometimes, so in that case it kind of feels cheap. And weapon-wise, there didn't seem to be a lot. If you didn't order the deluxe edition, you are down like 5 weapons. So I would say if there's one thing these Soul clones do get wrong, it's the amount of weapons they include. For example, I only found 1 axe in 30 hours, which is not good. Now on to difficulty. I'm gonna be honest, because of the lack of co-op and the lack of difficulty settings, I think if you're not good at these games, you're gonna struggle. And it's one of those games where the area is harder than the bosses. I will get stuck in an area for an hour or more, but then kill the boss in 1 try, or a few attempts at most. There were a couple bosses that were challenging, but some areas in this game will have you raging way more than any boss. Like the snow map, which has mines on the ground in the snow that you can barely see, that 2-shot you for the entire map, on top of exploding enemies while archers fire bombs at you in towers above. The forest area was also unfun due to the lack of bonfires, meaning every death was like a 2 to 3 minute run back. So yeah, enemies 2 to 3 shotting you, no co-op to help you, lack of bonfires, and kind of too many hazard gimmicks equals rage. Still, while there isn't player co-op, you can summon NPCs for some bosses via a whistle to help you, but they're not available for every boss, and again, the issue isn't the bosses, it's the areas. Anyways, the last feature is your death. When you die, you build up madness, and the more madness you build up, the more damage you deal, but also more damage you take. But given the iframes for dodging, this is usually in your favor, and some extra effects or skills become more powerful with higher madness, meaning the game usually becomes easier the more you die. But if you're at max and then die outside of a boss room, a clone of you gets summoned to kill you near your bloodstain, which is really cool. And that clone can even fight other enemies, which was fun to watch. The only complaint I have is that you still have to manually pick up your bloodstain in boss rooms, which in my opinion is an outdated concept and just tedious. And lastly, performance. I played the PC version, and for the most part, with a 4070 Ti and Ryzen 9, I could get above 120 to 160 FPS at 1440p at mostly medium settings, with FrameGen on. With everything turbo maxed, I got around 70 to 80 FPS with FrameGen on, which is not good. But at medium settings, the game still looks good, so it was playable, and you could still get above 100 FPS even without FrameGen. There was a few frame drops when loading into new areas, but other than that, it ran great, and I haven't had a crash, which is nice given the year 2025. So overall, I think the game is great. The foundation of combat mechanics is great, the graphics are nice, it runs good, and it's got booty jiggle.
I'm coming for that ass.
Some of the areas do take it to the extreme, and the damage seems kind of overtuned in many ways. So because of that, and the lack of co-op, and the floaty combat, and the fact that I didn't really give a crap about the character or story, I'm gonna give the game an 8. If it had a character creator, it would have bumped it up to an 8.5. I think it's gonna be great for those that love Souls games, but I also think you should buy a couple extra controllers in case you break any while playing. Still, I'm looking forward to an expansion or sequel, and hopefully some patches to nerf those freaking mines. So hope you guys enjoy. That's all for me. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more Wuchang epicness. Wuchang, Wuchang.